Welcome to the 440, where we explore the business and creative life of music teachers and working musicians. I'm your host, Eric Branner, musician, educator, and founder of Fonz, the platform that helps music teachers run thriving studios. Today's guest is Rachel Ehring, a pianist, teacher, administrator, entrepreneur, mom, and host of the Top Music Piano podcast. She directs the St. John's Conservatory of the Arts in Orange, California, and also runs a coaching business helping pianists thrive in collaborative piano. Through her YouTube channel, courses, and workshops, Rachel has become a go-to resource for pianists who want real-world skills and paid opportunities. Today, we'll dive into collaborative piano and how she helps pianists build sustainable careers and her new workshop, The Pianist's Gig Map. Welcome, Rachel. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad you're here. I'm just going to go ahead and call it out that before we even start, that in all of the notes, listening to your podcasts, nowhere did I remember or see that you were a podcaster until just now. So that's what we were laughing about before we pushed record.
I know. Well, thank you for having me and calling me out first thing.
That's how I do it.
I was thinking. There's a lot on my mind right now, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. School's in session. Things are going on.
Yeah.
So what's going on in your world?
Well, we're getting ready to start lessons in the conservatory. So I'm the director of a music conservatory where I use Fonz all day, every day, and love it. And so I'm getting all of that set up. And then I'm working on a new workshop for pianists that we'll talk about. Going with the podcast, still recording episodes for that. I have some really fun ones coming up that I'm looking forward to. Yeah, so just a lot.
I'm so excited to talk with you. We got to know each other a little bit more at NCKP and got to connect. And you were hanging out at a booth next to us, just chatting, and you were filling me in about collaborative piano. As we started chatting, I started really about all these projects that you have that you're working on. It is a recurring theme in the series of people that we're chatting with, which is the reality of being a thriving, successful musician, educator, passionate arts advocate, is there's this kind of quilt of things that we do. And you just have an amazing, you're a great example of that. And everyone wants to hang out with you. That was the other thing I noticed is everybody's just like wanting to chat with Rachel. So was it the Piano Detectives? Is that what those?
Yes, the Piano Detectives Club. I love them.
They are so cool. I'm really grateful that you're here. Actually, I think it might be really interesting to just begin talking about your journey as a collaborative pianist. Because when we first chatted, I didn't really quite understand that as a career. But in watching your videos and listening to your podcasts, it sounds really awesome. And so what attracted you to that?
Yeah. So I got my undergrad in piano performance, like a lot of pianists do. And at the end of that degree, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I was at a Christian school, and so a lot of my friends were either preparing to be like music directors at a church or piano teachers. And I remember one time all of the piano majors were sitting around a table and we were supposed to tell what we wanted to do after we graduated. And those were the two things everyone kept saying. And it got to me, and I think I said, well, I don't want to be a music director at a church and I don't want to teach piano. So, but I didn't know what else there was that I could do. I thought I'd be like working in an office and then playing, a little bit here and there. But when I was about to graduate, I was approached by a voice professor who said, would you like to join our team of staff accompanists? We have an opening. And I was in shock that someone was actually offering me a job to play the piano. I thought, how cool is that? I can play the piano and get paid for it. So that's how I got started, was just part-time at the school that I had been attending, and then had to fill in with some other work. I did do some teaching. I taught elementary music for a year and decided that was not for me. And then I got a church job to kind of supplement and fell in love with a company. And I loved that I got to work with other musicians and I was learning so much from them and learning all this new repertoire. And so decided to go on and pursue it in my graduate degrees, and then got a couple of different full-time positions as an accompanist at universities. And then during COVID, that my full-time position was eliminated at the school where I was working. And I mean, COVID just changed everything. And I had a toddler at home. So that was like a whole different stage of life. And So I actually took a little time off during COVID. Well, was kind of forced to take a little time off. And that's when I started to get a little more into the entrepreneurial stuff and listening to lots of podcasts about that. And then ended up getting the job at St. John's, where I'm the director of their conservatory. And but still love to do the collaborative stuff as well. And I play for the choirs at St. John's as well too.
Wow. Is collaborative piano, is that a universal word? Is it ever called accompaniment?
I use them interchangeably.
Okay.
Some people feel like accompanist sounds a little second tier or second
Oh, okay.
rate. And collaborative makes it more, it kind of levels the playing field of the soloist and pianist, I guess.
Got it. And so you're doing that now. You said you're accompanying the choir too.
Mhm.
So this is 7 or 8 jobs that you just
I know.
mentioned.
I should probably back off a little with the work stuff, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think that this is the conversations I want to have, especially for the people who are listening who maybe are just getting started in their careers about how great it feels to have a wide-ranging experience in your week and all the people you get to hang out with and the music that you get to make that's additive. It's not just you. You're getting to play with other people. You get to connect with people. Sometimes you're an admin. Sometimes you're filling out a schedule. Sometimes you're accompanying a choir. But at the end of the day, over time, day to day, I would say it's probably exhausting, right? I think most of
It
us are like, well,
is.
this
Yeah.
is a lot of stuff. I'm doing too much. But it's really hard to give up because it's all meaningful. And it makes a
Yeah.
patchwork over time where you're like, wow, this is an awesome career. And I don't really know what I'd give up. So, out of the 7 things you just mentioned, like what are the 2 that are feeling the most meaningful to you right now? I'm assuming the entrepreneurship type stuff, you seem really fired up when you talk about that.
Yes, that really lights me up and I get excited about it. It does feel like work at times for sure, but it's also like this fun puzzle that I'm trying to figure out how can I actually make money through this? And that's not the primary reason I'm doing it, but it's a really fun and interesting puzzle. Like I like to study what other entrepreneurs are doing either in the music space or other spaces and try and figure out how their funnels are working and what their courses are and all these different parts of their business and how I could try and make that work in my business and how to find my audience. That's been probably the biggest hurdle for me so far is finding the people who want to learn from me and who want to learn this information.
Got it. And who would that person be for the entrepreneurial piece? Are you talking these are collaborative pianists, or maybe they're coming out of a program, they're coming out in the world, they're just like you. They're like, I don't want to think I'd want to teach, and I don't think I want to be a solo artist. You're like right
Yeah, I think it's pianists who maybe haven't discovered the collaborative piece yet. They have the piano chops, they know they love to play the piano. They might have good sight reading skills or maybe not so good. I can teach that. But they just aren't sure how to get gigs, where to get gigs, how to get paid, how to network, all of those other pieces. I was just talking to a friend recently who's a piano teacher, but she just moved to a new state and she's like, I think I want to do more playing. I think I want to seek out some of these gigs, maybe at schools or something. And so I'm talking to her about different ways that she can kind of go about that and find work that's a little different than what she's done in the past as a piano teacher.
if you're listening, this is really important. And this is a theme you'll hear in a lot of conversations, which is one is seasonality, 2 is embracing entrepreneurship, and you were curious about it. And at some point, you go through this period where you're like, oh, I'm going to start listening to some podcasts or I'm going to get some books. And we started, in my experience, before that, my dad was a serial entrepreneur. I was always interested in business, but that was starting a tech company and I knew nothing about it. And I just built a bookshelf of every book I could read about it. And I was so curious and interested because I was just learning something new. And I think a lot of musicians, especially, feel like they're going to do this thing and they're going to get stuck and they're going to get tired. But if you're open and you're curious and you're letting this, I think it's like seasonality is what my wife calls it, where there's these different seasons where, oh, I'm feeling really interested in this thing right now. And then when you were talking about your friend going to a new town and thinking, oh, I think I'm ready to play some music right now. And this creates an interesting life where you're not burned out. And you
Mm-hmm.
might become on the road to burning out. But that's usually if you're paying attention, a little glimmer of something will be like, why don't you check this out? Let's make this a game out of making money. Let's be entrepreneurial. Let's figure out how that thing works because doing that, which you do really well, opens up more opportunities, and then you're helping more people. So there's impact. Because if you're making money doing this type of work, you're helping people, which is great. So I really loved how you put that. That was really succinct, and it said a lot in that one little moment you shared.
Thanks.
Yeah, totally. So your entrepreneurial piece is really big. What's it like running a music school on top of that?
Oh, it's exhausting, but there's so many fun things and so many benefits to it. So I think of the music school, it's my full-time job. It's my 9 to 5 essentially. And so I try and come to work and get it done during the day and then go home and not think about it too much unless I get a phone call. But you know, I love the kids. I think I wasn't really a kid person until I had my own child. And then I suddenly became a kid person. And now I just think it's so magical to watch these little kids come in, especially the ones who are so excited to learn music. There's some who just cannot wait to come to music lessons. There's others who have other feelings, but the ones who are just so excited to come and then like seeing them light up when they finally figure out how to find, I don't know, F in the middle of the piano without counting up from the bottom of the keyboard or whatever it is. It's just so fun to see their little minds work and to see them get excited. I teach a couple of preschool piano classes, which is a whole different ballgame, but so fun. And I have these little stuffed animals, and those kids get so excited about the stuffed animals. They told me that I should take them home and sleep with them because they just love those stuffed animals so
Wait,
much.
so you are teaching?
I am teaching a little
Oh,
bit.
I didn't know if that was your thing, if you were doing that. So,
Yeah.
okay, cool. I didn't realize you were actually getting in there in the weeds with the kids. They do love the
Yeah.
stuffed animals, by the way. They're into
Yeah,
that.
I know. So
Mm.
last year, it was kind of a rough year in the conservatory because I had a number of teachers go out on maternity leave, which is amazing, but also made my job a little more difficult trying to cover all of those lessons and hiring. It was just a lot last year. And so I actually ended up teaching more because just
Oh,
out of necessity, and I really enjoyed it. Makes me even more busy, and it's hard to get all of my other work done, but I do enjoy the teaching. It's also tiring, and it gives me a better appreciation, I think, for what my conservatory teachers do every day to teach back-to-back lessons for a number of hours in a row is it's a lot. So I admire all of those teachers who do that every day.
it does take energy. And at the end of
Hmm.
the day, especially when you're back to backing it, it's a lot. So I love that. How many teachers are you managing? How many students? Like what kind of size are
Yeah,
you?
so we run around 100 to 120 students, and I have a team. Right now, I think it's around 10 teachers, but I'm working on hiring a couple more. So it'll probably be around 12.
Wow. And you're the Swiss Army, Rachel, meaning when a teacher goes on maternity leave, you're going to teach some preschool classes. So
Yeah.
on top of all that, so that's just another piece to it. But you also said you started to like it, right? And when you got
Yeah.
out of college, you weren't really into that thing, but now
Right.
it's
It's
cool.
been a minute since college. And like I said, when my son was little, I was thinking about this the other day. During COVID, my son was about 3, I think. And we had these neighbor kids that we would go to the park with, and maybe we weren't supposed to, I don't know, but whatever. It saved our sanity
Yeah.
to take our kids to the park. And then at one point, I was like, I should put together a little music class for this little group of kids who goes to the park. So they would come over on Saturday morning to my backyard, and I would do it was essentially a preschool music class. And like they didn't pay me or anything. I didn't care. I was doing it as much for my kid as theirs. But it was really fun, and it kind of I don't know, I guess that was kind of the start of it. And then I started teaching a couple neighbor kids piano during COVID because we were already playing at the park, and I think that was more toward the end of COVID where
Mhm.
things were opening up a little bit. So that was kind of when I started teaching again after having done the accompanying thing for so many years.
Yeah, it kind of comes back to you. That's awesome. And also just being around the energy of a school full of kids flitting about. I just kind of
Oh
imagine
yeah.
skipping in and waving and saying hello. It is really good for your spirit to be around that energy.
Yes.
kind of like going to NCKP. I go to a lot of these things, and I feel like NCKP was such a great vibe. That's National Conference for Keyboard Pedagogy. It's every
Really
couple of years.
fun.
It's so fun, right? Everybody's so excited, and there's so many
Mhm.
people doing really interesting things, and I feel like it has kid energy there, right?
It
Except
does.
it's a bunch
Yeah.
of piano teachers. So tell me about your course you're working on. This is your new project.
Yes.
And you call it a workshop, or is it going to be a course? Tell me about this.
So I have a course that I built about a year and a half ago. It's called Dynamic Accompanying, and it is to teach pianists who want to learn how to accompany. And it does a lot of the basics. We go a little bit in depth with the different topics, but we talk about vocal accompanying, choral accompanying, instrumental accompanying, how it's different accompanying an instrumentalist from a vocalist. We get into service playing a little bit because a lot of pianists naturally play in church or want to play in church. We talk about playing for weddings, even though that's not necessarily collaborative, it still kind of, falls under the umbrella. And then there's a module about the business side of it. And I feel like I'm forgetting one, but I can't think of what it is. But anyway, so I built this course a year and a half ago and launched it with a live workshop a couple of times and had some people go through the course and really enjoyed it and gave some great testimonials. And then I decided to put it on Evergreen with the same workshop. And that's been okay, but I kind of missed the live launch where I do the live workshop and get to interact with people as they're deciding if the course is right for them. So I've been thinking about this new workshop for a while and have finally got it put together, and I'm really excited about it. It's called the Pianist Gig Map. I have a subtitle to Paths to Paid Work that you haven't tried yet. And I've decided to incorporate some chat GPT prompts and some kind of newer thoughts about how to get gigs because I think this is part of the problem that pianists have is they don't know where to find gigs. They don't know how to approach people. They don't, if someone comes and asks them to play for something, they might say yes, or they might be scared and say no. Depends. But if they're not getting the gigs that they want, they don't know what to do or how to seek it out. So this workshop is to address some of those issues and give pianists ideas of how to get gigs that they might not have tried yet or even thought of. And some of that incorporates AI, but there's some other ways as well that we're going to talk about.
Okay, let me go back two things. Because I want you to share
Okay,
two
that was
things. It
a
was a lot, but it was. Can you just really briefly, from the time you called it a workshop and it's a course, and can you just kind of clarify? You put out the Dynamic Pianist, right?
yes.
And this was a course that you launched as a live workshop. So can you just,
Yeah.
because I think this could be really helpful for people that are thinking about doing this. Yeah,
I know
share
I
that
said
experience.
so. I did a live workshop. It was about 45 minutes. And then at the end, I said, if you want to learn more and go deeper into this, then you can purchase the course. So the workshop was free. Um, and so the course you can really buy anytime. But now, in order to get more eyeballs on the paid offer, the course, I'm doing a new free workshop. And there's a ton of value just in the free workshop, I think, because it's all about how to get the gigs. And then if you feel like, okay, but if I get the gig, I'm not sure I would even know what to do, then the course kind of addresses all of those things of how to play for weddings, how to accompany a singer, how to play for a choir. And
Got
so
it.
that's really what the course
Yeah. So
addresses.
you built this great offering, which was this course that was really
Mhm.
helpful. This course teaches you how to become a professional collaborative. And then your funnel, your thing that you're building, last year you did a workshop and you've updated this workshop with new information. This time, this workshop is basically about how to get the gig, how
Yeah.
to get the work. And so I'm so glad I asked that because that's really
Mhm.
cool. You've got this thing that you built that you're really proud of that's really helpful. How do you introduce it to people in a meaningful way?
Mhm.
And because I see so many people just put out a course and it just sits there, but you've got to introduce people to it. You have to
Mhm.
introduce people to yourself. So thanks for clarifying that. There was something else that you had said. Oh, in your new workshop that you're doing, I loved that you said people will get a gig or get asked to get a gig, and they're either don't know what to do or they're scared. This is a major recurring theme is that everyone that we talk to that's successful, that's thriving, that's staying in the music field has figured out a way to deal with that, whether it's imposter syndrome, whether it's just doing it even if you're scared, because it is scary at first if you haven't done it. Some people just don't have that filter. And as I'm talking, like they just went out and they just do it. And I find that the people that are just willing to go do things and show up, they cover so much more ground, not overthinking it, just how can I help people? I'll take this gig. I'm going to do my best. And it just seems like a real differentiator in people that are doing a lot of interesting things. And I think our minds can really hinder us from experience. So yeah, how would you encourage somebody to start their path of saying, "Oh, I want to try this thing. I want to try doing collaborative piano. I think I'd be a great accompanist."
Yeah.
Would you pick? Yeah, tell me about that.
One of the things that I've noticed as a little bit of a theme in the students who've gone through my course is they say, I realized that I actually know more than I thought I did. And not to say that the whole course was repetition for them. I don't think that's what they're saying at all, but they realized like, oh, I actually can do this. Like I do have the
Mm.
skills. And I often tell pianists, like if you can play the piano, you can learn how to accompany. Like you just have to say yes and start doing it. And I can help give them some little tweaks and some extra knowledge to take them to the next level. But accompanying really is playing the piano and learning how to listen in a little different way. But yeah, I think that, I mean, obviously, I'm doing so many things like we talked about. I tend to just say yes to everything, probably to a fault, but I think I'm one of those people who's like, yeah, I'll say yes and figure it out, you know?
And so a lot of your content is around improving your sight reading. So
Mm.
that as a collaborative pianist, you have to be pretty,
Yeah. And I did a big push because I was doing a sight reading challenge earlier
yeah.
in the summer. And so I talked a lot about sight reading recently, but it is a big part of accompanying. And if you have that skill, people will love you because you can clean up their messes. So, like, if they don't give you the music ahead of time, you can just make it look like you've had it for weeks, you know? So, people love it if you're a good sight reader because it makes it a little easier on them,
Are you
especially.
mostly like who do you, is it strings players? Is it vocalists? Are there,
Right now, I'm mostly doing choirs and
mhm.
then occasionally singers and instrumentalists. But in my university jobs that I had previously, I was doing all of it. I was doing instrumental and vocal and choirs. So
Would that make you awesome for being like a session artist for recording?
I don't know because I've never done session work.
Yeah,
I
I think
would,
it would.
I'm maybe a little too far away from LA to get into that world, but yeah, it'd be fun.
It'd be interesting to see if that was a thing that you'd super vibe with too, because you would think if you're
I
doing it
know.
live, you'd be pretty awesome. Like with a choir, can you just sit down and just play it? Do you?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any, this is just a side note, are there good collaborative pianist jokes about which kind, like, do you make fun of? I'm assuming vocalists. You've got to make fun of vocalists, right?
Oh,
Like diva stuff.
totally.
Okay, good. Yeah, there's a bunch of these jokes, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I feel like I know the personality of every different instrument and
Okay.
voice type. Obviously, it's a stereotype, but I can tell you the difference between a tenor and a soprano or an alto or whatever, like, or a
Yeah.
trombone player. How is a trombone player different than a trumpet player?
Mhm.
I can tell you. Oh, yeah.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
I would assume so. I would assume over time you'd see these little things because you're seeing a different side of them. You're seeing them putting themselves out there and you're supporting them and lifting them up through this,
Hmm.
meaning you're also probably somebody that they can blame if something's not going well internally with themselves. I'm sure.
Yeah,
I
at
was
times.
guessing when you were describing this to me, I was imagining there's almost like a coach slash therapist piece to it where you're reading where this artist is. You want
Yes,
them to do the best
totally.
performance.
Yes. And I think I'm a pretty empathetic person, and I think that comes out and helps me in my role as collaborative pianist, especially when it comes to performing. When I was working at the university, a lot of these students didn't have a lot of performance experience, and some of them would get so nervous when we were about to go on stage. And it didn't matter if I was nervous, I had to put that aside and be supportive for them and be calm for them and help them work through it. And when you walk off the stage, you're probably going to be the first person that they talk to. And so if something didn't go well, you have to talk them through that or encourage them or help them reframe it or whatever. So there's definitely a therapist piece to
And yeah, I would assume so. If you were just starting out and you were a little anxious and you're like, I'm kind of curious about trying this, but what you just described, being the first person, that sounds terrifying. What would you say is the lowest barrier to entry of being a collaborative pianist? Is it
it.
working with a choir maybe? Or like what would be a good
Yeah.
thing to just put yourself out there? Like what if I wanted to do it tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? What could I do to go out and do something? Would I go to my church or would I go to like where would you
There's a few places that you could do. I think church is great. I would say if somebody asks you to play for something, say yes, because they probably have seen, they see
yeah.
something in you. And so I think that's a great place to start is if a voice teacher asks, "Hey, can you play for this little recital?" Say yes and try it.
Oh,
But if no one's asking, I think like a studio recital where it's younger students. So maybe a Suzuki violin studio where the
oh,
music isn't going to be that hard. Suzuki students are going to be well prepared. So
yeah.
you're not going to have to like clean up a bunch of messes. That would be a good one.
Mm.
I think playing in your church, especially if you've been attending that church and you kind of know the music and know how it goes, like you could sub. I think subbing is a great way to get in the door. Sometimes you have to sight read if you're a sub, but like subbing for a choir rehearsal instead of committing to like a full year when you might not know if it's what you want to do. But if you even reach out to a choir director and say, "Hey, I'm available to sub," then, if you do a great job, they'll ask you to come back, right?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Is this is really helpful to, yeah, do a Suzuki recital. If a voice teacher asks you, say yes instead of that urge to say, actually, I'm washing my hair that night because you get nervous. You're like, oh, I can't do
Yeah.
it. You say no before you even think about it. My schedule's packed. I really, and if you're going all in, all these things can be amplified too, where you could reach out to all the choir directors in your area. And I just had this great chat with this jazz musician, Steve Tressler, who's so cool. And he was talking about how when he started building his education thing, he just reached out to all the directors, sent business cards, and like it was just like 20 years ago, and one of them replied, and one of them sent him so many students he was slammed. And so, if you want to give it a shot, you might have to put yourself out there. And I did a similar thing. As you're describing this, I ran for a long time with like the Seattle folk community. I ran this really super cool, I emceed this open mic in Fremont in Seattle. And it was a great spot where all these singer-songwriters came. And it got to where sometimes they would just come and I'd just accompany them, like kind of like I was Bob Dylan's band, and I would just follow them. And there was no sheet music, but I really enjoyed backing these people up. And it's a similar thing, except it's more just you're improvising basically over an artist in the moment. And I loved it. It was so much fun. But I feel I would be super interested in having discussions with my voice teacher friends because I'm sure they would really appreciate having an accompanist or a collaborative pianist on hand that can
Mhm.
help with their students or your string teacher pals, I'm guessing, because they're always doing
Yeah.
recitals and competitions, and they need that opportunity to play with people, especially kids, I would imagine, going out for orchestras, right? Regional orchestras, competing for those seats. I bet it'd be really helpful to have that. So anyway, that's thanks for sharing that. That's really cool. What do you love most to play right now for yourself when you're accompanying people? What
Oh
music are you
my.
jamming on? Like what are you listening to?
Oh, wow.
That's a tough one. That
Well,
just came out of nowhere, but
that is a tough one. My son is obsessed with AC/DC, which is not my jam.
oh,
And so I'm being exposed to a whole new thing that I wasn't quite ready for.
okay, let's
Uh,
talk about this. How
G
did
Money.
G Money, as I like to call him, how did he become blown away by AC/DC? That's he's like
Isn't
eight,
that
right?
so? Yeah, he's 8. I don't honestly know, but he's taking drum lessons now. So I shouldn't probably tell you this on the podcast, but I made G Money take some piano lessons last year and he was not into it.
It's me too.
Uh, yeah, so he wanted to do drums. So his piano teacher went out on maternity leave. She was one of them. And so I said, okay, when she has her baby, we'll try some drums. And he loves the drums, which I never thought my kid would be a drummer, but here we are. But it's good. Like yesterday after school, he was like, I picked him up and I had to pick up my stuff in the conservatory because I work at his school. Like we're on the same campus. And he's like, Mom, can I play drums? I was like, sure, you can play drums. So he goes upstairs in the conservatory and starts jamming out. He takes an iPad and puts on AC/DC, starts rocking out. And it was like 2 hours and I couldn't get him off the drums. I was like, dude, we got to go home and get some dinner, kid. Like he loves it. So I don't know where it came from, and I'm far afield from the original question, but that
No,
is,
that's well, that's what's in your life right now. And so when you
yeah,
think back to this
it
time,
is.
you will, this is like we talked about before, the idea of seasonality. You will be thinking about AC/DC in
Yeah.
this moment and his playing drums. And, I was the same way. My grandfather was a concert classical pianist. He was a big band jazz leader. He was amazing pianist. And I was forced to play. I wanted a guitar from the age I was like 3. I also thought drums were really cool. And in my first piano recital, I just remember him being there and me being like, what am I doing? I was sophisticated enough to know that he was awesome and I sucked. And that was the thing for me. I wasn't comfortable not being awesome as his grandson. And for some reason, I just stopped playing altogether until I got a guitar. And then it was like your son, where I just couldn't stop playing and exploring different instruments and letting people do different things. Because I think drums are probably, in my mind, the greatest prep for being a good pianist because they're percussive.
Hmm.
Piano is percussive too. And having great rhythm is something that a lot of pianists, honestly, and strings player, like any polyphonic instrument,
Yeah.
guitarists included, don't really have.
Hmm.
Some of my favorite artists who play keys or guitar, they were drummers first, right? It's physical and you're feeling the music and there's movement involved. So who knows where it's going to go? It's just a short jump to the
Yeah.
marimba too, and the marimba is so cool.
Yeah. So anyway, I don't know what I'm into though right now. I am honestly, right now, I'm just playing the music that's handed to me that I have to play. But I do really want to get back into some kind of routine where I'm playing, practicing every day for at least a short amount of time, music that's not just handed to me for Sunday morning or whatever, because I know how important that is. And last year I was doing hand exercises every morning, which sounds really dull, but it got me back in shape so fast because right now I'm doing so many different things that I'm kind of out of shape with my piano chops a little bit compared to where I was when I was an accompanist and playing all day every day. So I want to get into a routine and get back in shape. Maybe pull out some Chopin or something.
Yeah, I'm really working on that too. I'm working on
Yeah.
trying to find that thing and to try to add that discipline. But we're both doing so much that
Yeah.
other things are prioritized right now. Spend a little extra time so G Money can just bang on those drums. Yeah,
Right.
so we'll get there. And
Yeah.
it is tough. Do you ever sit down and you play? I do this where I'll start to play a piece that I know well or that I should really have under my hands. And I just play 2 notes and the tone's not great. Nails
Hmm.
don't feel right. I buzz a note. I just think, oh, I'm so mad at myself. And I'll just put my guitar down and be like, I'm coming back later to this. I
Yeah.
need a break. I've been practicing for 3 minutes. I'm already mad
Yeah.
at myself. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a common thing. Well, this has all been amazing because I think we got to really dive into all the things that you do and your path, how you got there. And I think that's really inspirational for people that are trying to do something and they look and they're like, oh my gosh, she's got 2 podcasts, a YouTube channel, of course, she does workshops, she's accompanying, she's teaching, running a school. That's a lot.
Hmm.
It compounds over time and it also comes in and out of your life. So
Yeah.
and it's all meaningful and it's all things that you can add or subtract a little bit from your scene. So I think this is all really cool. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you're really pumped about that you might want to share with somebody who was starting out on this path of being maybe not just a collaborative pianist or an entrepreneur, just someone who was coming into the music world, getting ready to try to make a living, imagining you were in a room and a school of upcoming graduates were asked, what are you going to do when you graduate?
Mm.
Like, how would you encourage somebody coming into the music world right now that didn't know what they wanted to do?
I think you have to remember that there's so many different paths. A lot of times, I think our teachers try and no fault of theirs, it's what they knew, but they try and tell us there's one path. Like maybe you have a teacher who's a concert pianist, and so they're trying to put you on that path of being a concert pianist. Or, but there's so many other paths. And I think if you're open to that, then you will find your way. You know, it might be entrepreneurship, it might be accompanying, it might be teaching, it might be like me, a combination of all of the above. But if you want to have a career as a musician, you can do it. It just might not look the way you think it was going to look.
That's great wisdom. And I agree. And if you think about all the tendrils and the different ways that you can go from going into publishing to composing to performing
Mhm.
to, working for a piano manufacturer, doing sales, working in a store, retail, creating products, there are so many different routes you can take. And I really feel that a creative mind, and this is like this big high horse that I'm on right now, because everyone's like, oh, don't go to college, go study finance if you do, so you can make lots of money. AI is going to take everything away. I feel like we're entering a golden age where people are going to want culture, they want human connection and creativity. And, I had this meeting with a startup founder, super tech human, really well known. And he was going over how he's using AI and also how he's not, and how his philosophy is that the reason we met is he's like, I think creatives are about to take over. And he's like,
Mm.
because honestly, AI is not going to be good
Mm.
at being in the moment or being human. And he's like, I think that the empaths and the creatives are going to be the sparks. And they're going to have these tools like you're talking about to help them put things out more quickly. Like it's going to
Mhm.
be a lot easier for you to manage your 11 career things that you're juggling in the next 5 years with your
Mhm.
computer. Because a lot of the busy work of what you're doing, you'll be able to just do. And it was so great. This meeting was so cool because his big encouragement was don't use AI for anything where there's human value. Don't ever email somebody with AI, like, unless it just
Mm.
doesn't matter. Don't, and so what he's building these companies now where there's AI is just doing busy work, doing it really well. But he's
Mhm.
also investing more in creatives to do the human work because he thinks that's going to be the differentiator. And so what I'm getting at is I think that an arts degree or a poetry degree, any kind of expressive, human based type connective cultural understanding in the next 10 years, I agree with him. I think it's going to be really valuable because people are
Mhm.
running away from it. And we're here right here, like, wait, we can spark up ideas. We can do seven things at once. So I think it's a really exciting time. And I really encourage people to really explore it. And anyway, I'm so grateful that you came because you're the perfect example of like super rad human that's doing this super cool stuff all over the place, doing a lot of things well because they all inform each other. So I'm really glad you got to come today and spend some time with us.
Well, thank you so much. This has been so fun. Thank you for asking me to be on your podcast. And I can't wait to listen to all the episodes that you put out.
Awesome. And for everybody that's listening, everything we talked about today, all these links are going to be in the show notes. So probably the first place to check out, where would we start? Because I've got your Instagram.
Say maybe just go to my website, rachelehring.com is a
Hmm.
great place because
It
pretty
is.
much everything is on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we'll put a link to your workshop that you've got coming up as well. So I
Yes. And
can't
I'll
wait to
put that
check
on
that
my
out.
website as well. I'll probably
Okay.
have a pop up on my website pretty soon.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for joining us, Rachel. This was amazing, and I really appreciate you being here. Let's talk again soon.
Thank you, Eric.
You've been listening to the 440 podcast. If you found this helpful, subscribe at Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to podcasts, and leave a quick rating. It makes a big difference. To learn more about how to run your teaching studio with less stress and more joy, visit fonz.com. I'm Eric Branner. Thanks for being here.